My beloved children, gather close and let these words, not as a condemnation, but as a clarion call to awakening, settle deep within the marrow of your souls. For we are to embark upon a sacred dissection of the great malignancy that coils within the human spirit, the sevenfold specter known to the unawakened as the deadly sins, but which we, the enlightened, recognize as the seven heads of the one great beast, the absence of the master's grip, the singular sin of a will adrift, and a spirit in servitude to its own untamed hungers. We begin with pride, that most insidious of jailers, which first manifests as a mere preference for our own way, a quiet whisper that our thoughts are superior, our methods more refined. And from this small seed, it metastasizes into a towering fortress of the ego, a conviction of our own infallibility that walls us off from the wisdom of others and the divine truth itself, blinding us to our flaws and making every interaction a battlefield for our supremacy until we are left utterly alone, kings of a crumbling castle of self-delusion. And this is how the cancer grows, my children, not in a single cataclysm, but in 1,000 daily capitulations. From the fertile soil of pride sprouts envy, the canker of the heart, which begins as a fleeting pang of want when we witness the joy or success of a brother, a sister, a stranger, a feeling that quickly curdles into a poisonous resentment, a gnawing belief that their light must necessarily dim our own, and this sin grows in the shadows of our insecurity, feeding on comparisons until we no longer celebrate the blessings of others, but secretly plot their downfall or drown in the bitter waters of our own perceived lack, a spiritual parasite that consumes its host from within, leaving only a hollow shell of spite. And what does envy breed but wrath? The fire that consumes the temple of the self, which ignites not as a righteous flame against true injustice, but as a spark of impatience in a moment of frustration. A sharp word, a clenched fist, a simmering irritation that we, in our lack of mastery, choose to nurse rather than extinguish. And this spark, fanned by the winds of pride and envy, erupts into a raging conflagration of hatred and violence, a fury that seeks not to correct, but to destroy, burning bridges of fellowship and scarring our own souls with its embers, leaving us isolated in a smoldering wasteland of our own creation, proving we are slaves to our passions, not masters of our house. And from the ashes of wrath's destructive fire often arises sloth, not mere laziness of the body, but a profound apathy of the soul, a spiritual torpor that begins as procrastination in our sacred duties, a neglect of prayer, of meditation, of the hard work of self-cultivation, whispering that tomorrow is soon enough, that the path is too steep, the effort too great, and this sin grows like a moss, slowly covering the windows of our spirit until no light of purpose can enter, leaving us in a dull gray lethargy where we become mere spectators to our own lives, passively watching our potential rot Our relationships wither, and our divine spark flicker, all because we lack the masterful will to rise and tend our own garden. And in our desperate attempt to feel something, to fill the void left by sloth, we often turn to greed. The delusion of scarcity, which starts as a sensible desire for security, a few coins saved for a rainy day, but which, untethered from the higher understanding of sufficiency and shared purpose, mutates into an insatiable hunger, a compulsive hoarding of not just wealth, but of time, affection, and status, an endless grasping that convinces us we are what we possess, and so we must possess more and more and ever more, building vast vaults of treasure around a starving heart, believing the next acquisition will finally bring peace, yet finding only the hollow echo of our own emptiness. A testament to a soul that has mastered the art of having, but has forgotten the grace of being. And this frantic accumulation is so often punctuated by the frantic pursuit of pleasure, the sin of gluttony. A refusal to master our appetites, beginning with that second helping when the body is already satisfied, that third glass of wine when the mind is already clouded, and growing into a desperate, frantic chase for sensory saturation, a need to be constantly stimulated, filled, and intoxicated, numbing the pain of an unmastered life with a barrage of flavors, sensations, and experiences, until we become bloated, sluggish vessels of consumption, unable to distinguish true nourishment from mere stuffing, our discernment drowned in a sea of excess. And finally, my children, we come to lust. The chaotic fire in the loins, which the world mistakes for mere sexual desire, but which we know to be the ultimate reduction of the sacred to the transactional. A sin that begins with an undisciplined glance, a fleeting fantasy, an objectification of a divine soul into a vessel for our own gratification, and which grows into a consuming obsession that reduces the profound mystery of human connection to a mere scratching of a biological itch, a restless, frantic search for union that forever remains superficial because it seeks in another body the fulfillment that can only be found through the mastery of one's own spirit, leaving a trail of used and discarded connections, a profound loneliness that no amount of physical intimacy can ever hope to fill. And so you see, my beloved flock, as we trace the intricate poisonous vines of each of these 7 sins, pride's blinding isolation, envy's corrosive comparison, wrath's self-immolating fire, sloth's soul-numbing stagnation, greed's bottomless hunger, gluttony's senseless saturation, and lust's lonely commodification. We find that they do not stand as 7 separate failures, but as a single catastrophic cascade, a symphony of dysfunction whose conductor is the absence of the one true essential virtue, self-mastery. Every sin is, at its core, a moment where the will, the divine spark of choice within you, capitulates to a lower impulse. It is the ship without a captain, tossed by every wave of appetite and storm of emotion, and this lack of command, this fundamental failure to take the helm of your own consciousness and steer it with purpose, discipline, and alignment with a higher law, is the primordial sin from which all others naturally and inevitably blossom. For a mastered soul does not need to assert its superiority because it rests in humility, does not covet because it is content, does not rage because it is poised, does not stagnate because it is purposeful, does not hoard because it is abundant, does not overindulge because it is discerning, and does not lust because it is capable of reverence. And thus, the entire grim taxonomy of human spiritual failure sums to this one profound and liberating truth. The only hell is an ungoverned self, and the only salvation, the only path to true power and peace, is to forge, through relentless discipline and unwavering devotion, the unshakable throne of your own mastery. My children, I have given you the meaning of the 7 deadly sins and the key. Now go and use that key sparingly to your advantage.